morning, Calum.
Hello.
Great to see you following your morning show with Times Radio here at the St James Centre in Edinburgh. Can you tell us just a bit more about the breakfast show this morning for people that might have been sleeping in this morning, what they can expect?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you were sleeping in, where were you? We are on our election bus tour with Times Radio, so we're working our way all around the UK. And this weekend, I'm very pleased to say we're doing Scotland, and we're doing it really well. So we start today in Edinburgh, we go on to Dundee, we're doing Glasgow, and we're capturing really the stories of this general election in Scotland. This morning on the breakfast programme, we were really keen to reflect absolutely the Edinburgh stories, which are so fascinating in the 5 constituencies that are here, some of the battles that are emerging. Will Joanna Cherry, almost really a household name by way of it being an SNP MP, will she hold on to that seat? That's one that's kind of contested, and so that's one that's really intriguing. But Edinburgh is also kind of symptomatic of something of a Labour surge. Will Ian Murray, it's probably about how much he wins by, I suppose, in many ways. Will he then go on to become Scottish Secretary of State, for example, in a Labour government, should Sir Keir Starmer win overall? So these were the sorts of things we were reflecting. We also had reps from the Scottish Conservatives on today. We were speaking to them, and I think they're so fascinating given the, I mean, let's be honest, catastrophe of Douglas Ross's various decisions in the last couple of weeks. And I think the implications of that decision and of the election and what that does to the Scottish Conservatives, something we're really keen to reflect. We had Keith Brown on, Deputy Leader of the SNP as well. So we're kind of challenging them, I suppose, on what an SNP win actually means. Because sure, they, in their minds, if they win the most seats, that will count as a victory. But actually, what does that translate into? What is the reality of that? And also, we were challenging him on the latest polling, which suggests that actually they might not be onto much of a winner across Scotland as well. So, yes, part of our tour. We're doing Scotland, we're doing Edinburgh, we're doing Dundee, we're doing Glasgow, and then we're elsewhere around the UK as well. But today, I'm very pleased that we've got a good focus on Edinburgh.
The ending of the VAT exemption in private schools will not go towards building of new schools, says Wes Streeting. You were speaking to him, I believe, and reporting on that. Can you tell me a bit more about what was said?
Yeah, for sure. So Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, joined us. As did Daniel Johnson, actually, from Scottish Labour, who's an Edinburgh MSP, and so at different times in the programme. So first of all, with Wes Streeting, so obviously the Labour manifesto was published yesterday. And I think one thing, it'll be familiar to you, is that when politicians are interviewed in the run-up to an election, they will frequently and, relentlessly point to the manifesto as being this great moment where you'll get more information, that's where the detail will be. I can't answer that now because it will be in the manifesto. And then the manifesto comes along and you ask questions and you still feel like you're lacking information. Now, Wes Streeting very kindly actually read out a section of the manifesto looking at Labour's policy on ending the VAT exemption. And I kind of said to him, I was like, well, hang on a second, you say you're going to raise sort of £1.5 billion, that's Labour's estimate for how much ending the exemption would give back, I suppose, to the Treasury. How much of that will be spent on building additional schools to accommodate pupils of families who can no longer afford the private school fees? And actually, one of the pertinent reasons for asking that in Edinburgh is because 25% of pupils here go to a private school. Now, that is an extreme case study, if you like, of the problem, but it is a real one. I think the average attendance at private schools across Scotland is 5%. So I think it's a really good place to ask that question. Similarly, we asked it of Daniel after 8 o'clock as well, because in his constituency is George Watson's college. And putting again to him, well, hang on, if any pupils are displaced, the schools of Edinburgh are packed, they are full. Where are you going to put them? And I think Wes Streeting, in reading out that list, didn't mention school building. He did mention their policy of recruiting more teachers, which, again, is all well and good, and, let's all welcome more teachers, that's fine. But where are they going to go? What classrooms are they going to teach in? The schools are full, so what are you going to do? So I think actually with the publication of the manifesto, that VAT pledge is a big one for Labour. Being in Edinburgh, which gives such a good example of where that policy may tie Labour and not, I'm not sure we got the answers that people would necessarily have hoped for from either Wes Streeting or from Daniel either.
I've heard a lot about what the politicians quite like to talk to you about. What are you most interested in hearing from those speaking on their election trail?
Honesty. I think one of the biggest issues we've got in this election is that politicians are pledging things, they're making commitments, they're talking the talk, but I think often there's a reluctance to say things like, I don't know, or let me get back to you on that, or that's something we're still working on. And I'm not sure why that is, and perhaps we as journalists and as the public need to cut politicians a little bit more slack so they've got room to say these things. Now, I think it's valid that they should have answers. That is a reasonable expectation from us as journalists when we ask questions, and from the public who are fundamentally voting in this election. So they should have answers. However, I think there's a humanity and there's an honesty that is not working at this point in time. And I think that is applicable to things like taxes or cuts. So many think tanks, including the Institute for Fiscal Studies, are really making the point that no political party is being upfront about what the financial, fiscal, economic situation is going to be after this election. Nothing is going to get better quickly. That's the honest message. And I think actually if politicians were a bit more upfront about that, they would probably earn quite a bit more respect. So definitely, we are on the search for information, but let's make it honest, candid reflections of information from politicians for the rest of the campaign.
Calum, thank you very much for chatting with me this morning.
Hi, thanks for watching. This video was created by me. My name is Anna Wallace and I'm a freelance journalist based in the UK.